Hello everyone and welcome to Grandstand Sports Data. In today's video, we're going to give you the round 1 betting preview between the Los Angeles Clippers and the Denver Nuggets. We'll be touching on our fundamental factors, our technical factors. We're also going to give you some of the matchup breakdowns, our models predictions, and then the betting lines for this first round matchup. So let's get right into it. Okay, so let's jump to our technical analysis now. Now, you're going to see the color-coded stats right here in the middle, and the color codes just mean that it's win percentage based on that specific stat and its edge in the playoffs. So, over the last 5 years here at Grandstand Sports Data, we have accumulated data over and over again. You've seen it in our videos, and the stats that are labeled in red are basically, I would say, on a 1 through 5 are a 5 out of 5. And then the ones in orange are a 4 out of 5 when it comes to win percentage in the playoffs. Just to kind of give it to you a little bit easier, help you understand. The ones that are labeled in yellow, green, and blue, those obviously yellow would be like it's about 500, and then green would be it's under 500, subpar, and then blue means it's a horrible stat to look at when you're looking at playoff success. So starting with some of the better ones, the power rating, the SRS, these two teams are very, very close in terms of their matchup. They're about 1-2 off in terms of ranks when it comes to those. Power rating would be us at Grandstand Sports Data, our own power rating. Now let's move to the offensive stats and offensive rating. Denver having a huge edge here, which, if you're back in Denver, that's a good support there for what you're looking for in terms of the betting world. Efficient field goal percentage, that's huge, or efficient field goal percentage, effective field goal percentage, whatever you want to call it. Denver is the second best team in the NBA, whereas the Clippers are 11th. Looks like in some of the most important stats, Denver is starting to check those boxes. Turnover percentage is another huge one. The Clippers turn the ball over a lot, 25th in the NBA. That's not good when you're playing a team like Denver. As Denver, as you can see, they're tied for 13th. Not the greatest in the NBA, but much better than a team that's bottom of the league. Also, they're better in terms of the offensive rebounding percentage stat. Obviously, having a guy like Jokic, that's going to help you in that department. We are going to move down to defensive rebounding, though, as this has been a pretty decent stat to look at. And the Clippers are number one in the NBA when it comes to that defensive rebounding. That's obviously from a guy like Zubac. But you got to remember, Zubac, he's probably the second best center in the league. He's just happened to play the number one guy in this series. That's a rough matchup for them. Now, if we're looking at some of the differentials, net rating, the Clippers have been playing good all season long. Top 5 team when it comes to net rating, while Denver is in the top 10. Gotta remember though, them, firing a coach, that's more fundamental analysis, but firing a coach, and I don't know, there's just some guys on that team, like a guy like Russell Westbrook. These guys have proven to be losers throughout their playoff career. And I know it's a harsh word to say, but when you're handicapping somebody, the guy really hasn't got the job done. Moving on to efficient field goal percentage differential. Denver Nuggets being a top 5 team in this department, so they can score well, and then they can prevent the other team from scoring as a top 5 team in the NBA. That's a huge indicator of success, especially when you're talking about the playoffs. Now, let's move on to some of the fundamental analysis. You can see here when we're looking at pace, it's not necessarily the best stat when it comes to playoff success, but Denver's going to be running a little bit faster. And I think that there's a little bit of a storyline here. You need to think about guys like James Harden that's going to be in the altitude of Denver and Denver running a fast offense. Put that in your notes, please. I know our displays don't really show that, but I think that that's a storyline that might be overlooked in this. He's going to have to go for at the most 4 games in Denver, running up and down the court with a top 10 pace team. Just I just think that that needs to be noted. Now, when we're looking at the win shares, remember, win shares, this is more of an experience or resume stat. It's an accumulation of the guy's career in the playoffs. You can see James Harden, he's played well, 21.5 in terms of his win share, and then a 23 for Kawhi, right? Taking teams San Antonio, Toronto, 2 championships. Obviously, he's well deserving of those numbers. Looking over here at win shares per 48. So what's the difference, you may ask? Well, these are how well the player plays in each individual game. Remember, this was an accumulation of their career, where this is an efficiency metric. It shows you how well they play in each game. Kawhi Leonard obviously leading the pack for the Clippers here at 0.224, whereas James Harden, he's going to come in at second for the Clippers at 0.172. Well, looking on the other side, though, looking at guys like Jamal Murray, he's a 6.9 for his career. So some people may say, hey, I thought he would have been a little bit better in terms of he's been there, he's won. Maybe he's more clutch, but even that win shares per 48 at being 0.131, kind of have to take a deeper look at that. It kind of makes you scratch your head and say, I wonder. But Jokic, obviously, being one of the best guys in the NBA, if not the best guy in the NBA, 0.241. He's going to be the best player on the court, just according to this metric of how well he plays in each individual playoff game. 0.241 for his win shares per 48. That's ridiculous. He shows out. And also, he's catching up in terms of his accumulation of his career at 15.2. So he's still got a lot of basketball to play to catch up to guys like James Harden and Kawhi Leonard. Now, if you're accumulating them as a team and looking at who has the edge, well, you can see LA has more of the experience edge in the playoffs and the win shares per 48. So they may have the deeper team in terms of individual talent. You got to remember, though, James Harden, these numbers, to me, when I'm looking at him, he's not that consistent in the playoffs. There's been games where he's been in game sixes and game sevens and he'd put up like 11 points. Not necessarily what he's supposed to be doing or his expectation. Finally, we'll close it out with home court advantage. It's labeled in orange. It's about a 4 out of 5 in terms of our metric. And the Denver Nuggets hold the clear edge there as they do have the home court advantage in this basketball series. Now, we touched on all the win percentage and gave you all the color codes, but now we want to show you what those numbers mean in terms of the betting world. Well, these are the ones that are the only stats that are profitable for the last 5 years. We're going to look at turnover percentage as the first one, right? You would be up $8.94 for every $1 bet if you just bet this stat blindly. The Denver Nuggets hold the edge in that department. If you're looking at turnover percentage differential, so you're looking at the difference between offense and defense, that would have gave you $8.37 for every $1 bet, where the Clippers hold the edge in that specific stat. Now, if you're looking at free throws per field goal attempt differential, so how well my team gets to, or how often my team gets to the line, compared to how well we defend you from getting to the line, the Denver Nuggets hold the edge there. They're up $7.54 for that specific stat for the last 5 years. This is a good, I would say, illustration to show you where the numbers are, where they're winning in the betting market, right? So they're not necessarily saying that they have a high win percentage. It's good at picking underdogs and picking favorites. It's giving you a profit in the gambling world. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the spread betting trends in this matchup. As you can see from the graph, this is just going to show you games 55 through 82. So we want most recent performance. We're not going to be tracking games back in 1, 2, 3, in the beginning of the year. It's not really helpful for what we're trying to gauge right now. Also down below, we're going to give you their win-loss percentage, their profit and loss, and all that good stuff in terms of the market for the whole season. So that's a little bit, we want to get a good big market picture when it comes to that. So as you can see from the Clippers, they went 48 and 34 against the spread this season. They were up $9.68 for every $1 bet. And if you bet on them in every single game against the spread, you would be up 11.8%. So not too bad, right? They started off a little bit cold. Now that we're moving on to the graph, started off a little bit cold from game 60 to 65, but then they ripped off a steady climb in value from about game 66 and on. This is telling us that the market basically they undervalued the team late in the season, and they actually, they exceeded expectations. You can see that they're trending upward in most of the moving averages here. If you're new to Grandstand Sports Data, this red one is going to track their average throughout the season. So it looks like they're playing above average for who they are throughout the season. If we move on to the Nuggets now, they were 40 and 41. I know a lot of people, it doesn't add up to 82. That means that they pushed in one game. Settle down. They're down $4.60 for every $1 bet. If you bet on them in every single game, you'd be down 5.7%. So as you can see here, they stayed cold against the spread from about game 68 and on. They despite being a good team, they lost value for bettors consistently, and it's a sign that the market overpriced them. That's something to keep an eye on. And then also, if you're looking at these trend lines, they're pointing down. So they're pointing down, but this little uptick at the end of the season could be optimistic for some of the Denver people who are backing them in the betting market. So let's move on to money lines. We'll show you another story when it comes to your if you're a money line better. So for the money line betting trends, as you can see here, 50 and 32 for the Clippers. They were, up $4.34 for every $1 bet. If you bet on them every single game, you'd be up 5.3%. So a steady climb from about game 66 onward. Looks a lot like the past illustration where they're starting to tick up over this average. So that's good for the Clippers. They're playing above their average, and the trend lines are moving up in the right direction. Now, if you're looking at Denver, they were all over the place, right? They were 50 and 32 throughout the year, down 0.72 cents for every $1 bet, and if you bet on them throughout the season, you would have been down 0.9% just on the money line bets for the Denver Nuggets. So, up and down performance is basically this is an understatement when you're looking at this. Despite the wins, though, Denver's money line prices were too high. So you can see that even in wins, they weren't able to bounce high enough, except for right here. But other than that, they just weren't able to get. It just feels like that they were just they had too much juice on their line. From a game 75 on, it was a steep dive. I mean, they just fell off of a cliff. They became just too overvalued late in the season. So it looks like one team's trending up in terms of the money line, and one team was trending down. Even though Denver's they're trying to give you a case or an argument for that case. It looks like in both, in terms of spread and money line, they're trying to bounce up and get over that average. So maybe they look to play a little bit better in this series and get over the hump, or just get over everything, the everything that they've gone through this season. Okay, so let's take a look at the series betting lines in this game and then also our model's predictions. Just remember though, our model's predictions is based on a model that has run historicals for the last 10 years, and it's based on stats that correlate to both win percentage and margin of victory. This is not our opinion. I know people come on here, they're going to come on the video in the comments section and be like, "You got it wrong, you idiot. You got it wrong." It's not what we're doing. We're basically running a model for you instead of you building one. And we're showing you what the results of those are. That's basically what we're doing, painting a picture. Let's start though with the series betting lines and see what their picture looks like when it's painted. Right here, it looks like Denver should cover. You can see that juice at minus 180. That cover that 1.5 game. The line is a coin flip. So this is telling you it's going to be 3 games to 3 going into game 7, and you can basically flip a coin. That's what the market thinks. So just remember that. That's what the market thinks. Prediction from our Monte Carlo simulations and our model: 10,000 Monte Carlo simulations have the Denver Nuggets winning 57% of those games, while the Clippers are winning 43. That equates to a 4 games to 3 series victory for the Nuggets. So Nuggets on the spread, Nuggets on the line, and then the over in the series is what the model has. If you were to ask me personally, it's a slight lean to the Denver Nuggets. I think there's a lot of question marks here. What are the question marks? Well, one would be James Harden in the playoffs. I think that towards the end of his career now, he's not necessarily performing like how he used to. So it makes me a little bit nervous. I'm talking about playing in the playoffs. Take away the regular season. I don't give a shit about the regular season when you're talking about the playoffs. It's just a different atmosphere, different game, different everything. Another guy I would look at, or a few guys I would look at on both sides. This would be Kawhi Leonard and Jamal Murray, two guys with injury history in the playoffs and injury history in the regular season, injury history throughout their whole career, basically. Will they stay healthy? There's just so many question marks here. Then the other thing, this is where my lean to Denver goes, just based on this one thing alone, and it's Zubac. Second best center in the league. Guy was playing awesome throughout the whole regular season. Unbelievable, right? Well, as a gift in the playoffs, we're going to give you the number one guy at your position. Not only the number one guy, maybe the number one guy in the world. So that's where my slight edge would go to. Obviously, it's hard to handicap injuries. It's hard to, kind of project them. So if you were to ask me, everyone's healthy, make your lean, I would say it's Denver. I still think it's Denver. I think that Jokic, at the end of the day, he's the best player on the court. I think the second best player would be Kawhi. I think you could argue it if you're looking at an accumulation of their careers. Maybe Kawhi's better, but I would say just right now, in this moment, it's Jokic, it's Denver with the lean. That's my personal opinion. Okay, so thank you guys for tuning in to the NBA first round playoff preview. We hope you had a great time and picked up some awesome information. Now, don't forget to subscribe to Grandstand Sports Data for more great shows like this one. Also, don't forget to give this video a like and share it with your friends. And leave a comment down below on who you think is going to win this series. That's all for now, and we'll see you guys in the next one.